I'll have John, the past winner of the bread contest here the last few years before last year. And a member of what, St. Paul, I know it's before last year. Jonathan won out last year, but the years before were won by John Jacobson. And he's a member of the St. Paul Bread Club, and we'll hear from him now. And after John finishes, then if you have questions, we can ask all three of these guys and come up with the best answers, hopefully.
Thanks. How's everybody doing today? All right? Everybody get a couple of samples of bread earlier? There will be samples afterwards too, so my fellow panelists make some awesome bread. Thanks guys for bringing it in. So also, thank you for doing a good job of bringing everybody up to this part of the process. I'm going to talk about a couple of things in the baking process. So you've mixed it well, you've done your time and temperature right, you've got everything shaped, and you're kind of getting ready for your oven. So you're preheating your oven before you, I think the best thing to do is to preheat your oven while you're doing your final proof. Don't wait until 10 minutes beforehand, you want a hot oven. One of the things that we as home bakers struggle with, we benchmark ourselves against the professional bakers. And it's really tough with a home kitchen to achieve those results. But through shared knowledge in the baking community, we're going to show you a couple of things that you can do. And one of the biggest, most popular questions I get are, how do you get those fancy shapes on your bowls, on your loaves, and how do you get it to taste like it came out of a wood-burning oven or out of a professional baker's oven? So time and temperature gets you there, and then what you're going to do is after you get your product into the oven, there's more chemistry that's happening. And what's going on in that oven is your yeast is being killed by the heat of the oven. And before the yeast is actually killed off, it's going like in hyper mode, and that's what gives you your loaf its spring. The yeast is trying to survive. That heat just drives it crazy until the point it expires. And then when that's happening, all of your dough is starting to set itself. There's starches in the flour, in the dough, and that's your cell structure. So the yeast is doing everything it can to maximize the benefit of all the mixing and shaping and folding that was done beforehand. So if you do all that right and then you get it into the oven properly, you're going to have great bread. I guarantee it. So I'm going to ask one of my co-workers here, sponsors, to hold the microphone. And I'm going to go through what I do what I do to get a loaf of bread into one of these Dutch ovens that's 450 degrees. So, excuse me. So, an hour beforehand, when you started your final proof, you took your oven and you heated it up to 450 or 500 degrees, whatever the recipe is, and you're going to put your Dutch oven in there, empty. Okay? Now it's time to proof. Now it's time to get that proof dough into here somehow, safely. Safety's number one, right? Because you want to be around to enjoy what you just spent hours doing. So, important tools are these gloves. So I have a good set of gloves handy, and leave this in the oven until the last minute. So I'm going to take this, and we're going to imagine that this is full of dough. And what I'm going to do is there's two ways you can do this. You can proof right in the basket and get those nice rings. There you go, thank you. So you can proof right and get those nice rings. So everybody wants to know, how do you get those fancy rings? With the rice flour. So with the rice flour in there. So you can get these from Lucky Penny Trading for maybe $7 to $10 online. The other way that I like to do it is to take a piece of linen that I've got at the remnant area at a fabric store. Dough does not like to stick to linen. So the dough is in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll out a sheet of parchment paper, and I'm going to put it over the top of this. I'm going to go just like this, okay? And now I've got my ball of dough that's ready to go. except I got to get it into this 450 or 500 degree thing, and I got to do that rather quickly. So one of the tools that you're going to use in this part of your process is a serrated knife or a razor blade, but I find a serrated knife. I've done hundreds of pounds of loaves of bread with this simple serrated knife that I bought at Tuesday morning. And all you're going to do is you're going to put a cut in the top of your dough, and that's going to tell the yeast where to expand. Okay, so if you want to put a tic-tac-toe pattern on there, it'll expand. If you want to do a ring around it, it's going to expand. So if you just do one line down the center, and you can agonize over it, but what you're doing is you're trying to control what's happening with that yeast that's going spastic in the oven. So could you grab me that underproof one? Well, Daryl brought in a couple of great samples. No, the other one. So this bread was sliced, but one thing that happened was it wasn't ready to be sliced. So it's important to know that your bread is ready to be sliced. If it's tight on the inside, you're going to get this blowout. And this is underproof. So this slicing will control where it goes, but you still have to pay attention to time and temperature and make sure the texture of your bread is ready to go. All right. So right before I slash this dough, I go around, I take a scissors and I cut around it, and this is all I have now. And what I do is I set this, I leave myself a little tab at the end so that I can grab it with the gloves. Okay? So I put that tab on the edge of the table, and I walk over to the oven, and I say good morning, hot oven, take this out, put the cover on something safe and out of the way, and all I do now is I take my gloved hands like this, walk over to the pot, place it in there, cover this, into the oven it goes for 20 minutes. 20 minutes covered. And what's going on is you're getting a brick oven effect. The professional bakers have steam-injected ovens, and that's a big advantage of this. The steam injected into the oven, what it does is it keeps the top of the dough nice and soft and moist. You can imagine if it was in a dry oven, it would harden. So this allows it to spring a lot more and get big volume and give you big open structure in your crumb. 20 minutes goes by, you can take this off, and you'll see it's actually starting to brown, even with it covered. It does not have to be uncovered to start browning. And then I let it bake for another 15 to 25 minutes, and sometimes if I'm really in the mood for a really, big flavored bread, I'll leave it in there for another 30 minutes where it's almost black. Ken Forkish, one of the books that Daryl brought, talks about that technique, and it's really kind of fun when you do it. The first time I did it, I scared myself in that. What did I just do? But I tell you what, it was one of the best breads that I ever made. So, all right, so now you got to get this thing out of the oven. We worked like crazy to get it in there. It took a lot of time. So you just take this thing out of the oven, and what I do is I just, on top of the oven, take it out, put it down, and put this somewhere safe. Put the lid back on it, and put it safe somewhere, get it out of the way. And a lot of times I'll just leave my leather gloves on it so my wife knows it's hot. And then I can't emphasize this part of the process enough. This has to cool. Do not take your bread and go, oh, give me the butter, tear into it. No, because it'll compress. Your starches haven't fully set. And there's actually some breads that take a couple of days to set up, like rye breads. Breads that are big in rye, they need 24 to 48 hours for those starches to set. So give this, I would say 3 hours to cool down before you dig into it. And then when you, to keep this thing fresh, the first day you can put it in a linen bag, and that's a great way to keep the crust crunchy and the crumbs soft on the inside. And after that, if it's around for more than a day, then I transfer it to a plastic bag. So. Any questions on any part of that?
What size of Dutch oven is that?
This Dutch oven, I believe, is a 5 or 6 quart. 6 quart, and it does about 1.75 pound loaf. I've got shop around for these things. This is fun. I've made a loaf of bread up to 3 pounds in a Dutch oven. My goal, I found another Dutch oven. I'm going to try to do 4 pounds at one time, just so I can say I did it without a brick oven.
So is that the general size to get?
Yeah, well, it depends on how much bread are you going to eat. So this is a good size. I use this for my white chicken chili all the time. These are workhorses in my kitchen. I use these for everything. So for Guinness stew, white chicken chili, French pot chicken. So buy yourself a couple of them and bake bread. Bake all kinds of stuff. So start with the size you think you're going to use for your loaf and roll with that. Good question. Thanks.
How can you tell when a loaf is cool enough?
How can you tell when a loaf is cool enough? Great question. Well, you can, when it's room temperature, I guess, and you just have to feel it. The targeted final temperature is going to be, for a loaf like this, for a lean bread, is going to be somewhere between 200 and 210 degrees on the inside. So, and you can do that with your thermometer if you've got one of the instant read thermometers, which you should have anyway for the first part of the process. So, excellent question. Thank you. Other questions? Martha, any questions this morning? Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
So I guess we'll go to sampling our breads and coming to the different tables if you've got questions. A lot of the utensils that I was talking about are over here. And thank you all for coming. We appreciate your attendance and I hope you enjoyed it.